Talk Shoe.
Recorded live.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Indy Power Rankings Tag Team Top 5 reveal for the week of August 7th, 2017. I am your host, Travis, and knock on wood, hopefully within the next 5 minutes or so, we'll be joined by Willow Nightingale. She was unable to join us last week due to illness, but spoke to her yesterday, and she said she was good to go. So, in the meantime, I will go ahead and run down the Tag Team Top 5 for the week of August 7th, 2017. Anyway, okay, so starting things off here, I gotta say, just admittedly, that the online voting competition was slow this week. But that being said, Brian Blade and Eric Fantabulous won the online voting competition as they edged out Shane Saber and Phil Atlas. We'll bring them up again shortly. They are the MWA Tag Team Champions, and they defeated Chief, I hate pronouncing this guy's name, but it's Chief Adekolakola and Shane Sanders on 8-3 to retain the titles, and they defeated the Beast and Chief Adekolakola on 8-4 to retain again. So they went 2-0 in the week, got on the online voting competition, and, well, they took care of the rest as they won the online voting competition. So props to them for being people's champs this week. And, with a week like that, you got to assume we might be seeing more of them in the future. So, number 5 this week, Le Tabernacle des Teams, Matthew St. Jacques and Thomas Dubois. They defeated the Young Bucks over the weekend. And what was a huge match for LTDT, just tremendous match to be able to beat the Young Bucks the way they did. That's always a huge win. They beat them at IWS on August 5th, International Wrestling Syndicate. Also, don't forget, they are the Combat Revolution Wrestling Tag Team Champions as well, so they're double champions right now, and they beat the Bucks, which is important. All right, number 4, and this is a team that definitely deserved a ranking as they beat basically a group that controlled the Indy Power Rankings and Tag Team Top 5 over the last couple of weeks. In British Strong Style, they beat British Strong Style. It's Colt Cabana, Joey Ryan, and Candice LeRae. I'm sure listeners to the Indy Power Rankings and just independent wrestling fans are familiar with them. Again, they knocked off British Strong Style, which consists of Trent Bate, Tyler Seven, or try that again. Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, and Pete Dunne. Sorry for the slip-up. Trust me, I know who they are. So, yeah, a big win over them. I mean, because this is a team combined who had not lost in a couple weeks, and they beat them at Riptide Wrestling on August 3rd. So, huge win there. Gets them into the number 4 spot this week. Okay, so number 3 this week is Andrew Cobalt and Nick Adams. They are the new Real Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. They teamed with Ray Parker at Real Pro Wrestling on August 1st to defeat Michael Kai, Rain, Donnie Abel, and Preston Kane to win the titles. And then they defeated Ruby Flyer and Samuel C. at American Combat Wrestling on August 2nd to retain the titles to go 2-0 for the week. So hell of a week for Andrew Cobalt and Nick Abrams. If they could have done just a little bit better in the online vote, I think they could have even snagged a number 2 spot. But that goes to Scarlett and Graves, Zachary Wentz, and Desmond Xavier. They're the number 2 team. They're the AAW Tag Team Champions, and because they are the AAW Tag Team Champions, they are they get kind of special consideration, just like Evolve Champions. Anybody that's wrestling in a big promotion that's still considered an indie, which AAW is, they get special consideration whenever they retain their titles, and that's what they did. They beat Stephen Wolf and Trey Miguel on August 5th to retain the titles. And, again, competition was a little weak this week as far as up and down the Tag Team Top 5. So Scarlett and Graves, with just one victory, get into the number 2 spot. But, that's nothing to take nothing away from, their win. It's just that on a lot of weeks it's multiple wins that get you so high. But, it was a big win. So, all right, number 1, Shane Saber and Phil Atlas. This is a team who almost won the online voting competition, which would have meant that they swept all the votes. But as it stands now, they swept the online voting competition. at or not the online voting competition, but the official vote at number 1. So they are the new CWE Tag Team Champions as they knocked off Jacob Creed and Bobby Collins to win those titles on July 31st. And then they just racked up 5 more wins. They beat Q Cody and Travis Cole on August 1st. Then they teamed with Jonathan Gresham the next day to beat Tony Kazina, Q Cody, and Tasty Travis. And then they defeated Danny Duggan and the Mercenary and Ethan Price and Kenji Bria in a 3-way on August 4th. Then they defeated K-Doss and Cass Carter and Kenji Bria and Tony Kazina in a 3-way on August 5th. And then they beat Tony Kazina and Silas Young on August 6th to go 6-0 for the week. Absolutely crazy. So that is the number 1 team this week, Shane Saber and Phil Atlas. And we have our guest on the line. So, hello, Willow Nightingale. How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you're feeling better. That's the important thing.
Thank you so much.
And the other important thing is that you are still, after a title defense a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, the NYWC Starlet champion.
True, yes. I fought Karen Q in a very hard-fought battle, but still came out victorious with the thing I love the most, the NYWC Starlet Championship.
Yeah, now you've held this title for a while now. Talk a little bit about the importance of the NYWC Starlet title for people maybe that are outside of that area and aren't familiar with it. Kind of talk about, what it meant to you when you won the title and kind of what you've tried to make the title into since then.
Well, coming from New York, for a long time, New York Wrestling Connection, NYWC, was one of the only places that had a women's championship. And beyond that, we call it a Starlet title because it really means we're more than just divas. Because at the time it came out, that was still a very big term. That was still, a lot of derogatory comments and, all these thoughts associated with women's wrestling. So we wanted it to be more than that, something that shows how women's wrestling can shine. And through that is how the name was brought. Now, since I've started wrestling, I first won the Starlet Championship last year in February, and that was a really proud moment for me. I felt like at that time I'd been wrestling for about a year, so it was a huge deal, a very big mark of accomplishment for me. But I lost it after maybe 6 months or so because I had a knee injury and I had to get surgery, so I had to forfeit it, which was a pretty rough time in my life, having to just recover and be away from wrestling for so long. But since I've come back, I won it this February again, and I've been rocking and rolling since then, trying to just elevate the women's division that we have at NYWC and just keep, pumping out match after match, showing that we're competitive, we're athletic, we're awesome, and we're here to run the show just as much as the guys are.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, so going back to the injury, can you talk a little bit about the injury? Because, like I said, if you know who Willow Nightingale is, you wrestle a pretty consistent schedule, so to take time off, I know that probably wasn't easy for you.
Oh, no, not at all. Yes, I received my injury last June. I completely tore my meniscus in half in my left knee. And along with that, I had done some damage to my ACL and my MCL. So fortunately enough, my doctor was able to surgically repair it. So not only did he make my knee good enough to go back to wrestling as soon as possible, but he was looking out for me the long run so that we could push off arthritis for as long as we can. And so when I come back, it really wouldn't give me any problems. And because of that, I had to stay out about 7 months or so. And it was just really rough because, like you said, you get used to wrestling every weekend, training during the week. On top of that, it just becomes such a part of your life, your identity, routine, and for me, it's really a daunting thing. It makes you question a lot of who am I outside of wrestling? But it was nice to kind of get a break. Aside from me feeling kind of cruddy for a long time, the rest of me felt great being able to not have to constantly take bumps or get hit in the face, you know. But emotionally, it was pretty draining.
I was going to say, how much do you travel in wrestling? I know a lot of people, you know, get stuck in New York and they just kind of wrestle there. And then the people who do travel end up with their body just completely shot, not because so much of the wrestling, but because of the travel itself. I mean, that can be as bad as the actual wrestling, from what I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I am still working on trying to grind out as far as I can. But as far as going north, the furthest I've gone so far is about to Rhode Island for Beyond in like WWR sort of Revolution. But I have a for Limitless trip, so that in Delaware next weekend. That's another 4-hour car ride each way. So it's.
Hey, Willow, can you try calling back in? Your phone is breaking up really bad. I can't hear you right now.
Oh, yeah. Just give me a moment. I'll get right back to you.
Okay, thanks.
No, I'm fine.
I think Willow just hit a dead spot there on her cell phone, so she was breaking up. She's going to call right back, everybody. Sorry, my apologies for that. I don't think it's on my end. If it is, somebody let me know, because usually if it is, they would hear me all jacked up, and I wouldn't hear all jacked up. All right, so she'll be back in just a second. Like I said, she just hit a dead spot. I think she's just trying to get better coverage, and then she'll call back. It was interesting, though. She was talking about being sidelined for the injury. She had so much momentum on her side before the injury. I mean, we're talking about, she's getting to work with Britt Baker. She's working with Deonna Purrazzo. She's working with Deonna Purrazzo, rather. She worked with Chrissy Rivera a couple times, and, so, I mean, she's working with a lot of the who's who in that area and beyond. No pun intended, with beyond there. And, she got to work at GCW. And so, she was really making a name for herself, and then the injury happens. But, obviously she's come back from that. But recapturing that momentum's tough. She did get to work with Lufisto after that fact. So she's getting back in now. We'll see how her phone sounds here in just 2 seconds. She'll be right on. It should give her a little talk shoe. There she is. What's up, Willow?
Hey there. Sorry about that, folks.
It's okay. So I was talking about, so you had a ton of momentum before the injury.
Yes.
And then you came back, but it looked like it only took a couple months, maybe even less than that, before you kind of picked up again with that momentum. I mean, because like I said, you were working with people like Deonna Purrazzo. You were working with like Britt Baker, and then the injury happens, but you kind of got thrown right back into the mix there, especially at NYWC.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like, now's the best time for women's wrestling. So luckily for me, it's still booming. There's still a definitely much smaller number of women's wrestlers than there is in comparison to how much like male wrestlers there are out there. And I'd like to think, I'm good at what I do, so that puts me in a place where people are constantly looking for good women's wrestlers. It's a little harder to come by. So I just wanted to get back there and prove that, I have this injury and this sucked, but I'm going to put it behind me and keep working hard and just keep getting better. So I was really happy that people missed me and were so happy to have me back. I was just received with so much warmth. It was pretty heartwarming, I guess. And since then, I've just been trying to prove that I could outdo what I was doing before.
Yeah. I mean, talk about that a little bit. So some of your favorite matchups before the injury, and then if you had to kind of adjust your style at all after the injury, because I got to think that weighs on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I was never someone who was huge on like doing dives or anything. But I had definitely done a couple of them before, and every time I've done a suicide dive, I'd land pretty hard on my knees. So I haven't done one of those